everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new to my channel, make sure and hit the subscribe button where you will find all things beauty, travel, and business inspiration. In my video today, I'm going to share with you how Peachy Keen Studio started, how it was born, and before I get into that, I want to do a little bit of an introduction on my background, and if you want, you can fast forward it because it's kind of long, but I want to share with you guys how it all kind of started, how I got into the beauty industry and everything. So ever since I was a little girl, I always knew that I was going to be in the beauty industry. The top three things that I always said I wanted to be when I grow up is a gymnast, a singer, and a beautician. And so I followed my beautician dreams. I didn't always think that I was going to be here where I am today. And so I want to share a little bit about my background. So where I went to high school, they actually offered a cosmetology program, which if you are a student or if you're a parent, I highly advise you looking into your child's high school or your actual high school and seeing if they have some kind of program where you graduate high school with some type of certification to where you could have a backup degree or certification or maybe a lifelong career and you don't have to actually go to a university. So when I was in actual high school, I enrolled in cosmetology school. I always knew I wanted to be in the cosmetology industry, and I had so much fun doing it. It wasn't like a traditional beauty school. Like you actually go half day to actual beauty school and half day actual school, and we had the actual school inside our high school. So half days I was just doing beauty stuff, and I did this junior and senior year. Whenever you graduate and finish all your hours and take your written exam and your practical exam, that's when you get your cosmetology license. So it wasn't actually that easy for me though. I finished cosmetology school, I finished all my hours, and that summer I decided to go take my test. And I actually failed it. I didn't study for it, and I remember I was so embarrassed because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna take my cosmetology exam, I'm gonna be a licensed cosmetologist, and I didn't pass it. And it was really embarrassing because for a lot of people said it was easy, and so I was very embarrassed that I failed it. And I always like to be very transparent now and just be open and honest about it because I want people to know, you know what, if you fail something, go back to the drawing board and go take that exam again and keep on taking it until you pass it if you genuinely want it. If you don't, then of course don't. Because of having a little bit of pressure from my parents, and nothing wrong with that, but because I believe everything happens for a reason. My sister was more of the book smart and I was like the street smart kid. I always felt a little bit of pressure to go to college and get my bachelor's. My sister did it, and so I always felt like if I didn't go, I would make my parents upset, even though they never told me that. But my parents always encouraged me to go to college, and they told me they would pay for it and everything just to go so that I could be successful because of the background that we did come from. You know, growing up, it wasn't always easy. We didn't have a ton of money, and my dad joined the military so that we can live the American dream. And because my parents were both born and raised in Puerto Rico, I was born in Puerto Rico, and so they really wanted us to live the American dream. So fast forward a little bit, I didn't pass it, and I remember I'm like, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. I'm just not gonna be in the beauty industry. So I decided to waitress, and I became a Hooters girl. Don't judge me. Actually, working at Hooters though was one of the most impactful years of my life because I worked there for 4 years, and I made so many friends and met some of my very, very best friends there. And had I not worked there, I would probably not be where I am today because of everything that led me to my cosmetology career. So when I was 18, you know, I didn't pass the test. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And so I enrolled into Austin Community College, and I remember it was either broadcast journalism or radio, television, and film. But I always felt like I was just doing it to like make my parents happy. I didn't really want to go. But I also didn't want to feel like I wasn't doing anything in life, so I waitressed all those 4 years. And I remember that first year, I went my first semester to ACC, and I got all A's, and it was great. But it was also so stressful and a lot harder than what I thought because there was a lot of writing and a lot of reading, and those are two things that I absolutely did not like doing. And it's not that I love doing it now, but I prefer video. I don't love writing, and so I forced myself to read more, and I forced myself to write because I know that the only way to get better is to actually practice it. But I remember going to college and I was doing it full time, and I was also working full time because I always had to pay for everything. I wasn't happy, and I just remember dreading going to school. And so the second semester, I dropped all my classes after a couple months, and I just worked full time, and I just knew that I didn't want to do it, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So that year, I also got into so much trouble. I was partying so much, and I think it was just like my confused years, and also I grew up in a very strict household, so when I turned 18, I kind of went buck wild, and I was just partying and getting into so much trouble. And this is something that I'll have to talk about in the future, but it's very personal. But I want to be transparent because I want people to know that I want people to be able to relate to me and know that they can get themselves out of situations and know that they can be successful if they put their minds to it. So that year I was partying a ton, and I actually got into a lot of trouble. I went to jail a few times, and I can't even believe I'm saying this right now. But knowing that I'm on YouTube and this is public information, I've never really, been so open about it, but I do want to share that with you. Because had I not gone through a lot of the things that I went through that year, I wouldn't be who I am today. And everything, I don't wish what I went through upon anyone, but I'm so happy that I went through it because it's the only thing that changed me to be a better person, to think positive, to be disciplined, to have faith, and all of the things that are who I am. Those are a product of all of the bad things that happened to me. So anywho, got into a lot of trouble, and I knew that if I wanted things to change, that I had to change. And so I'm like, what can I do now? Like, I'm not going to party as much. I'm not going to drink. I quit drinking for like a year and a half. Instead of going out all the time, I got into the fitness industry, and I ended up actually becoming a professional IFBB bikini pro, and I did that for about 4 years. And I'm so happy that I did that, even though it's not something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life, or it's not something that I want to do now. I'm happy that I went through that because I met my husband. And I also learned a lot about discipline and believing in myself and visualizing more and all of that. So being in the fitness industry was very impactful for me. So I went through like a good year of like not really knowing what I wanted to do, year and a half. And then I remember thinking, well, why don't I just take this exam again and just study and, like actually do this, like just get your cosmetology license, even if you decide you don't want to do it. So I went and took my cosmetology exam, and I actually failed it again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I failed it. And I decided, you know what, just go back and take it again. So I took it, I freaking did amazing on it, and I remember I was so happy, and I cried of happiness because I failed it twice. That passing it was such a reward. It's like, when you work hard for something, you appreciate it so much more. So the time, I actually put time into studying, and I passed it. So a lot of things changed for me. My skin was breaking out, and so I really wanted to learn more about aesthetics. And because I had my cosmetology license, I knew that I could be an esthetician, because with a cosmetology license, you can be an esthetician, you could be a manicurist, you can be a waxer, and you can do eyelash extensions, and of course, what most people go to cosmetology school, hair. So I remember meeting my girlfriend, Saren. One of my co-workers at Hooters was really good friends with her, and she is a big part of my life because she gave me my first job. She was a spa director at one of the facial spas that were like in Austin, and I went ahead and just asked her, I'm like, hey, like I know I didn't go to actual esthetician school, but I do have my cosmetology license, and we dabbled into aesthetics, but I didn't have proper training. But I really want to get into the esthetician industry, and I would love to, if you guys have any openings, I'd love to submit an application. So she was really sweet, and she actually got me my first beauty industry job, and I just remember being so happy. So I felt so cool. I was working as an esthetician, and I thought it was so awesome. And I worked And it was just really rewarding for me because of everything that I went through those last few years to get to where I was. And so I was really happy about working there. I worked my butt off and I became the lead esthetician in less than a year. But I knew that there was something else. Like, I wasn't necessarily, it wasn't that I wasn't happy. After a while, I just felt like I wanted something else. I started realizing, even though I liked, it was rewarding and I was helping people with their skin, just like I felt whenever my skin was getting better, but I knew that I wanted to get into, I felt like maybe I needed to get maybe I needed a new environment, because the facial spa that I worked at, it was like super dark lights. We could only use whisper voices, and I'm loud. I'm like Puerto Rican. We got that Puerto Rican volume, so it was very hard for me to just like whisper all the time. And while I was doing all of this too, I was freelancing, doing makeup on the side. I actually had a few jobs at one point. I was working at Hooters, I was working as an esthetician, and I was also freelancing at Mac. And so I was doing makeup, aesthetics, and I was also waitressing. I went to a makeup course in Dallas where I first found out about eyelash extensions, and one of the instructors, she was telling us how this lady would fly her out to Vegas and pay her like $500 to do her eyelashes. And I was like, okay, what is this that you're talking about? Because it was so new then. It was like 2007, I believe. And so eyelash extensions were really underground then. So I took the makeup course. I was just interested in getting eyelash extensions for myself because I was always putting eyelash strips on and I loved that full glam makeup all the time. So I wanted to just get eyelash extensions myself, and I remember telling my boss about it, and then she's like, oh my gosh, we should introduce that here at the spa. I got certified with Extreme Lashes, and I just remember being the only one in my salon doing it. And so I didn't really have, another girl got certified, but she was like, oh crap, this is hard, I don't want to do it. And it really, like, eyelash extensions, the way people make it seem, it looks, excuse me, it looks like it's really easy to do, but it's actually really hard. I remember just wanting to cry because it was so hard, and I didn't have anyone to look over me, to mentor me. I just went to this class in Houston with my mom and my little brother. We drove to Houston and I did my certification, and that was it. You just do this all-day course. I think it was like 2 days, and it's like, okay, you're on your own, figure it out. So I remember like my full sets were taking me like 3 hours, and that's not even a full set. I think I had like 15 lashes on each eye. And so I never had anyone doing it, but I just remember loving doing eyelash extensions. And you know, when you love something, you're willing to put the work in. And so I just kept on practicing and practicing, and I really believe everything happens for a reason. So I was at the gym showering. I was in the locker room getting ready, and I was telling my girlfriend, I just got certified doing eyelash extensions. We're like doing our makeup and blow drying our hair, and I'm just chatting and being my loud self. And all of a sudden this lady comes up to me and she's like, hey, she's like, I just overheard you talking about eyelash extensions and that you got certified. And I'm like, oh yeah. And she's like, I actually own Lash and Body Shop. That was the name of the first eyelash extension salon that I worked at the time. And so she's like, you should come by and just check it out. And I'm like, okay. Like, I didn't even think anything of it. I didn't think she was like trying to recruit me. I just thought it was so cool because I think I only knew of one eyelash salon, and that was like, I think Betty Lash. I was just really excited because I actually, as I would go to the gym sometimes, I would actually see the Lash and Body Shop, but I didn't know who owned it. I didn't even know anything about it. I knew that there was 2 places. There was Betty Lash and Lash and Body Shop at that time. I'm working 3 jobs at this point. And she's like, yeah, come on in. And so I did check it out. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like an actual eyelash extension salon. Because even when people come and they don't really know about eyelash extensions, they're like, holy crap, there's an actual salon for this. So I just thought it was like so cool and very fascinating. And I just remember walking in there thinking like, this is so cool. And so she asks me, so when do you want to start? And I'm like, wait, what? Like, you're trying to hire me? Like, this is awesome. And I was so in love with eyelash extensions that I knew in my gut I had to take this opportunity. I didn't even have to apply. She just said, do you want to work here, kind of thing. And so I put my 2 weeks notice in, and I think I put my 2 weeks notice at Hooters as well. So if I were to work there, I would be working 4 jobs. So I put my 2 week notice in at the facial spa I was working at, And I got my job there, and I just remember loving every second of it. I can talk louder, I can have conversations with my clients, and it was just so awesome because the moment someone gets their lashes done and they've never gotten it done before, maybe they have, and the moment they get off your bed and they just see how beautiful they feel, or it's such a instant gratification of change that people are instantly like, oh my gosh, I look so beautiful, thank you so much. When I was an esthetician, I thought it was really rewarding too, but if someone comes in with acne, you don't just do a facial and it's instantly gone. And so you're working a few months on people's skin, and sometimes people don't do what you're even telling them, so it could be really frustrating that they're not seeing change, I'm not seeing change on them. And then, but when they did see change, it was really rewarding, but it was like a few months later, versus when you do eyelash extensions, the moment someone gets off your bed and they're like, oh my gosh, I love it, thank you so much. So it was this instant gratification that was just so rewarding, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. I was doing lashes there for about 1.5 years before me and my girlfriends decided to open up our first salon. I was 23 years old, and I could not believe that I was opening up my first place with my girlfriends. So I started working for myself, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. I'm a business owner. I'm only 23 years old. This is so cool. And then like a couple months later, I meet my now husband, Chris, who owns Simply Fit Meals. And so one of my clients actually introduced me to him because I was, of course, in the fitness industry, and I was all about meal prepping at that time. And I met him, and we instantly fell in love. We got married after 3 weeks, and I know that's super crazy, and I'll have to go into that another time, but we got married after 3 weeks, and he had his business, I had my business, and I just remember thinking, man, life is so good. You know, he had just started his business that year. He was in the trenches fighting to get it going, and my husband comes home one day and he's like, honey, we're moving to Dallas. We have an opportunity out there. Because of everything that my husband wanted to do with his business, I knew that this was going to be a great opportunity for us to expand. So we decided to expand in Dallas, and I had a business in Austin, and it was successful, and we really relied on my income because, you know, he was just starting his business. He wasn't paying himself. If you know anything about startup businesses, it's not always easy in the beginning, and you will sometimes not pay yourself for a couple years. I knew that it was the best thing for us to do for his business and for our future. So at first I'm like, okay, well maybe I could just work here during the week, and then on the weekends I'll live with him or something. I can't leave my business. Like, I've been doing these clients' lashes for a couple years now, and I mean, I would be leaving a good thing, and I don't have a business in Dallas. But I knew that it really would be a great opportunity for us, because it would be a great opportunity for Simply Fit to expand, and also for our future. And so I thought, maybe I'll just work in Austin during the week, and on the weekends I'll just hang out with Chris in Dallas, and you know, that way I don't have to leave and we can just depend on my income. Well, we did that for a few weeks, and I just remember, like, it was kind of like long distance, and I hated it. It was the hardest thing for me. Like, I don't understand how people do long distance. It's so hard. And I know that, you know, sometimes you just have no choice, and it's what you have to do, and it's what we had to do at that time. So I was just like really torn. And after a few weeks of just being long distance and trying to do this, like, work during the week in Austin, go to Dallas, I just couldn't take it anymore, and I just decided to wing it. I took the biggest risk of my life, and I decided, you know what, I'm moving to Dallas, I'm gonna figure this out. And